Hi everyone, and welcome to this Pano2VR 101 skins webinar. In this webinar we'll be looking at, strangely enough, skins, but we'll be building skins using the components. I'm Martin from support, and
I'm Karen, also from support, and I'll be behind the scenes helping out with the Q&A. Just a reminder, if you have a question, please use the Q&A tab at the top.
Hang on.
Oh wait, yeah, Martin will show you.
Hang on. Boom, there we go, that one there.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. Because that one we can answer. If you ask a question in the chat, we can't really answer it really well. And also, please try to stay on topic. I know we can get excited, especially when we get talking about skins, but try your best to be on topic, and so it's easier for us to kind of filter through. So we're happy to have you, and looking forward to this webinar, Martin. Good luck.
Okie dokie. Right, so welcome everyone. As said, it's Martin from support. So let's just see if I've got Pano2VR there. No, I haven't. So here's a project that we've been using throughout this series of 101s. So I'm just going to open it up. I've modified it slightly. I've just taken out a couple of the hotspots just to make the skin building a little bit easier. Anyway, so this is all about the skins. Now, there's a couple of ways to get to skins. We have our skin button at the toolbar, or up by the toolbar. As you can see, skin editor up there. And we also have a skin button here. Now, before I go any further, just for those that have not attended a webinar before, I have actually got a little app that tells you what keys I'm pressing on my keyboard. I'm working on the Mac today. When I press the command key and to do something with a key combination, for the PC users that would be the control button. When I press this button, which is the option key on the Mac, it's actually the alt key on your PC, and the older Macs it's called alt as well. So just to make sure that everybody knows what's going on, so when they play back the video later they know what buttons are being pressed. Right, okay, so as said, we've got the skin button up here at the top, and we've got one down here. Now this button here, this skin button, is only available when we've added an HTML5 output. The idea of having the two buttons is if you just wanted to quickly edit a skin, you can just open up Pano2VR, not necessarily open up a project, click the button next to the tools, select your skin, work on it, save it, close it. This skin is going to be for this output. So what I'm going to do here is make sure that I don't have any of the preloaded skins selected, and I'm going to click the skin button, and that's going to open up a brand new fresh skin editor window. Okay, now what I like to do straight off the bat is save the skin. So you can either do that from File Save, or you can use the keyboard shortcut. So I'm going to Command S and bring it up. Now, regardless of which button you click, when you go to save the skin, it's going to ask you to save it in the skins directory, right? So you can see here the preloaded skins that come with Pano2VR, and it will ask you to do to save it there. Personally, I like to save all my skins with the project that I'm working on. So in this case, I'm going to select the desktop. Here's my folder, and just type in the word skin. So that's what I've called it. Obviously you can give it a project name or whatever you want to do. Okay, so that's my skin saved. Right, the next thing I want to bring your attention to then is we're going to be building this skin using components. So therefore this little button on the end here, Components Toolbox, when I click that, indeed that's what it does, and this is our component toolbox. All right then, yeah, we've got lots of components in here. Basically, what is a component? Right, well, a component is made up of lots of skin elements that are arranged to have a function. Okay, so you might have, I don't know, as an example, we've got a start auto rotate button. So you may build that in the skin, and if that's something that you regularly do, then you can save that button as a component. So the next time you want it, you open up the components toolbox, double click, bang, it's added to your skin. You don't have to worry about any actions or anything else. It will just work. Okay, so that's basically what a component is. I think if you're coming from the Pano2 Pro realms, I think they had plugins. So very much on par, you know, but the good thing about this is that you can create your own components and share them and do whatnot very, very quickly in the skin editor. Once you're getting to know skins, I think the plugins with Pano2, you needed to be a real code monkey to actually build those. I don't know, I didn't do it, but that's what I understood went on. Anyway, so we have our components toolbox. Here are all the components that come built in. You can see we've got this category of built in. We also have a category of user defined. If I click this, you'll see that we've got some components. Now, these components are the ones that I've already brought into Pano2VR, but what I'm going to do is show you that you can also delete them, because I want to delete these two. I should have done before we started, but I was playing. So you can right button click, hit delete. Are you sure? Yes, gone. Right button click, delete. Are you sure? Yes, gone. So you can add components and delete them. I will show you how to add them very soon, but moving on. So this is our user defined and built-in categories. We can also use the plus button to add a new category. So let's just call this new cat, because I want to be original. And you can see that this category is completely empty. However, what I can do is select, say, user defined, and drag a component into another category. You can see it's now gone. When I select new category, it's in the new category. If I cursor down, I can now drag that back into the user defined. You see it disappears. So now the new category is empty, and I can click the cross button and delete it. There is another way of adding a category, which I will go on to in a second, but that's basically the categories. These are the components. Now, finding the components, you can see that there's quite a few here, and what we've done is we've given you some filter tools. If I just select a component, say this one, you'll see that we've given it some tags, so button, SVG, auto rotate, and it's part of our silhouette family of buttons. Okay, so if you didn't know that, what you could do is say, right, I want to find a component. So you could say, let's go for everything with silhouette. So that brings up just silhouette, and then you could bring up auto rotate. So we've now got the silhouette auto rotate button. If I delete silhouette, I see the simplex auto rotate and now the silhouette auto rotate as well. So you can refine your search for components. The other thing you've got here is this button at the top here, which is select all categories, which basically means when I click that, it selects all the categories and then all the components are available. And then of course, when you do the search, you're searching all the components that you have on your system. Okay, so that's basically the component toolbox. These are the components that we add to our skin. Now we can add new components to Pano2VR, which I will show you now actually. So if I was to minimize Pano2VR, let's go to our forum, because this is where they are. Now in the forum we have a repository of user design skins and more components to play with. So let's have a look. So this is our forum. If you want to be a member of the forum and you're not already a member, then just send an email into support@gnome, so GGNOME.com. There's also an email link at the bottom, I do believe. Or it's not, I think there is, where you can just send us an email. When you send us an email, please ask for one, you'd like to be a part of the forum, but two, obviously give us the username that you want and we'll set the account up. We do it this way because we keep out unwanted people from our forums, so they're, they are good for when you want information, you don't bump into any spammers. Right, okay, so where do we find components and skins? Strangely, underneath the skins forum. Here we go, so I'll click that. And here you can see we've got, so this is basically the main skins forum, but here we've got two little forums. We've got the user design, this is where you will find those. This isn't about skins at the moment, it's about components, so I'm going to select the components forum. And here you'll see that these all these topics are all about components. To make life easier, we've added a components index, and when I click that, you'll see that all the components are here. If you decide that you want to download a component, modify it, and share it with somebody else, and you want it, in a topic here, give us a shout, and what we can do is add this to the index. But for now, what I want to do is I want to select the thumbnail grid menu. So each post we tend to do has the how-tos and how to add it and how it works. If you're interested how the component works, we tend to put in an under the hood, this is how it works. But if you're not worried about it, add it, use it, job done. We've got a copy to clipboard component. This component comes in two guises. It has the simplex button set and a silhouette button set. I'm going to be using the silhouette button set today, so I'm going to click that and add that to my downloads. I'm now going to close the web page, and I'm going to go to the download folder on my Mac. Right, so this is what a component looks like. It ends with the GGSK, so Garden Gnome Skin component. All right. To add this to Pano2VR, the simplest way is just to double click. Pano2VR, if it's closed, will open and it will ask you which category to add it to. Now, this is the second way you can add a custom category, because when I click this, I could select new, add a new category and save it to that. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep it to user defined, click OK, and it says component successfully copied. I can do the same thing for the other one, and I can now quite happily select both of those, move to bin and clear my downloads folder. Okay, so let's go back to Pano2VR. Now, thing to remember or thing to know is if you've got the skin editor open already and you add components, when you go back to them, you won't see them. You need to close the skin editor first. I've got my skin editor closed, so when I open it, I'm back to the skin. Obviously, I saved it, but we haven't added anything to it yet. When I open the Components Toolbox, click on the built-in skins, the user defined, you will see now the copy and thumbnail menus that I added. That's why I wanted to delete them at the start, because I wanted to add them again. Right, okay, so that's them. Right, so with all this said, let's build a skin. So what are we going to add? Well, I'm going to add an auto rotate. So if I haven't added anything yet, you can double click to add it. There it goes. You can see this now appears in the skin tree. This tree will show you all the elements within your skin that you're building. All right, so this is the auto rotate. I'm probably going to want to add a full screen, so I could just type in F, he says. Okay, so full screen, so I can double click and add that. Clear that down. The next button I want to add is projection, so let's PRO. Checks. So here we go, we've got projections here, so I can double click. I'm keeping it with the same silhouette theme, of course. I don't want it to have any other buttons in there. Then I'm going to add the two new that we've added. So I'm going to add let's add the thumbnail menu and then the copy menu or the copy button. Now I'm double clicking to add these. You could right button click and insert component into skin, or if you've got a component that has to live inside another component, you would select it, right button click, and then insert it as a child of that element. So you've got those options there. Anyway, I'm going to close the component toolbox, and what we've now got is all the components have been added to the skin, all in the same place. Now, what we've got to do now then is to distribute these and make them more presentable. So the skin tree works from the top down. So if I click this top button, this is the one I can click on and drag. All right, if I click the next one down, say the grid menu, I'm just going to put it there for the second. I'm going to select the projection button, so I'm going to stick that there. I've got the full screen button, so I'll stick that beside it, and my last one is auto rotate, so I'm going to stick that there. All right, so these are my buttons. Now I've just manually pulled these apart, but what we can do is that the skin editor has an edit menu that allows you to align, distribute and center and match the size of your elements. Okay, now there's a couple of ways of getting to that. Now you can just see I've got an edit and align and do whatnot. Now the way to use this is you can see that if I select an element and then hold down the command stroke control on the PC, so command on the Mac, if I select other buttons, you'll see that they're getting the red line around them, but it's a thinner red line to this one. So this is my master element that all calculations will be taken from. So as an example then, what I'm going to do is say, right, my auto rotate button, I want that to be 25 pixels up from the bottom. All right. And now I'm going to select the other buttons like that. And then what I can do is right button click. He says, oh, I've just undid that. Right. Okay. So let's just do that again. Right. So I can now right button click in the skin, and I can align top edges. As soon as I click that, the top edges are now aligned. All right. Now what I can also do is if I select the copy button as that being the last button and bring it over a little bit. All right. If I now select the auto rotate and projection, grid menu and copy, what I can now do again is right button click, distribute elements from left edges. It now squishes them all up, so it now evenly spaces them out, and whilst they're still all selected, I can right button click, center elements horizontal in the canvas, and that's all my buttons nicely aligned. Of course, what you could also do is select a button, and I'm just going to turn off my aircon because it's getting a bit noisy. It's getting a bit hot in here, so it's on overtime, I think. Right, okay, so I can select each element and I could manually position it, but that's boring and it's much easier just to select them and do it manually. Okay, right, so that's that. If I'm going to close the skin editor, and we're just going to have a look and see what this looks like. So you can see that we've got our buttons, and as they're components, as I said, they're already pre-configured, they already work. So the auto rotate button will auto rotate, the full screen button will take us into full screen. The projection button, which is my kind of favorite, that will give us nice funky little planets. Whee, here we go. The full screen button, by the way, sorry, the projection button, by the way, when you click it, it takes you to little planet. The icon changes to now show a fisheye, and then once it's at the fisheye, the next time you click it will take it back to the rectilinear or the normal view. There you go. So that's a three-way toggle. We've got our menu system here that when I click it, up comes the menu. We can select a node. This was a grid menu that we were asked to build, so we built it and put it in the Components Toolbox, so that's ready for you to use. This is also responsive as well, so if you do crazy things like on a mobile, you can, yeah, so that's its claim to fame. Okay, cool. And then we have our copy button. Now, I really wanted to show you this. Now, we've been asked several times about, oh, when you click a button, can you get a screen print of what someone's seeing, blah, blah, blah. But what we came up with was this button. Now, we are going to do that, but I think this is cooler, is that we can go to a node. Let's just zoom in and say, right, I want someone to look at, I don't know, let's have a look, zoom in there. This bit of rope, here we go. So I'm going to click the copy button, and as soon as I click that, it says, this view has been copied to your components clipboard, blah, blah, blah. And you can just copy and paste it. However, there's a gotcha to this, and the reason why I wanted to actually show you. Right, if we go back to the skin and go back to the Components Toolbox and select the component, what is also equally important is this description text. Because all these components, some of them need configuring, some of them need something to happen to make it work. And this copy button tells you that direct node access has to be enabled for this component to work. Now, as you've been following, I hope you've been following all of our 101 series, you would have seen, I think it was in the first one, 101 Getting Started, that we showed you direct node access, where you could click or add on the end of a URL the name of the location, and it took you directly to that. So for this button to work, we need to turn that on. So we find that under the HTML5 output, the HTML tab, and under the template. Here we have the edit template button. When we select that, we need to select direct node access. Now, as it happens, because I've been playing around with this, I've already got it selected, so it would have worked. But had you have added this component, it wouldn't have done. So you would have needed to select this first. Create the output. Here it is. So let's go back to that node. Let's find my bit of rope that I really wanted someone to look at. There we go. Click the copy button. And here it says now that view. So this view, this exact view has now been copied to my clipboard. I could now, so let's open up a new document. I could now create an email and say, I want you to look at that. All right. And you think, okay. But when you open this URL, hang on, let's close the browser. When you open the URL, you are actually looking at that same view that I wanted someone to look at. So how cool is that? That's yeah. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to show you this, because it's actually quite good. If somebody now wanted a picture of this, they could just, screen print it or do whatever they want. However, I understand people do like the capture button, and it's something that we actually brought in, but because of I do believe Internet Explorer broke it, we were quite reluctant as releasing it as a component, because if it doesn't work on one browser, what's the point? This works everywhere, so this is quite cool. However, we do believe that Internet Explorer is going to move over to Chromium at some point, which hopefully then the capture button will work. Okay, all right, so that's said. So that's our component for capturing the view, this one. Right, so before I go to Q&A, the other thing is this button. Now, the menu that we had a look at belongs to the simplex button scheme, but I'm running with a silhouette button scheme. So how can I change that? But before I tell you, let's go over to Karen and ask if we've got any Q&As. Karen, Mork calling Orson.
Mork? Yeah, okay. So first of all, that is very, very cool. I know a lot of people were asking for this, and yeah, it's really great to see that working. Yeah, we've got a few questions. They don't, I think we have a little bit of time. They're not really on topic for today, but I know we get these questions a lot. So if anyone has a question pertaining specifically to components and adding them to your skin, please ask them now. Otherwise, I will ask the off-topic ones. Ibrahim is asking if you can add CSS classes to any element in the skin. I'm sorry, but can you control it with JavaScript? Yes. The question is yes. Yes. We have an API. Of course, you can do everything with JavaScript. Just check out the API.
We do actually. I mean, give me 2 seconds. So here, let's open a new window. Let's open our website. Let's go to the Pano2VR documentation, and then if we look at references, you will see JavaScript API. Boom. So yeah, we've got JavaScript API. So yes, you can. And that's where to find it.
Yeah, that's where it'd be the best thing. This is a little bit more relevant where, Ricardo, I don't know if Martin already answered your question, but I know we get some people who are a little confused about positioning elements within the skin and how that works. So the X and the Y in positioning. Are you going to go more over that today, or?
I tell you what, I'll go into that as soon as we finish talking. I'll just quickly show that. I did actually have it in my mind to show it, but like always, I needed a drink and forgot about it. So yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I will quickly show this because it's relevant, and I'll show you why it's relevant, because all the components are already coming in set with their proper anchor positions for this to work. Next week, by the way, that's the reason why I didn't show it actually, because next week's webinar is, obviously doing a little bit further and using your own images and adding your own actions to make stuff work. So that's when the positioning and anchoring will come into its own. So that's really a next week's question, I would say. So tune in next week.
Yeah, for more details.
That's
And,
it. But yeah, go on.
cool. Then that's it. That's it for me.
Alrighty, so I will then go back to where I left off, which is this button is the wrong button for this button set. Okay, so how do we change that? Right, so if I go back to the skin editor, okay, what we need to do is find the offending beastie. So here it is, this is our button. I can select it. Okay, when I select an element in the tree, so this is our skin's tree, this is the list of all the elements in the skin. When I select an element, the properties changes to that element's properties. Now you can see, as I said before, when someone said about anchoring, all of our buttons come set, or all of our components, should I say, come set to be anchored bottom middle. So whatever happens to the skin's window, so this little button up here, which is really cool, which is our live preview, if I click that, that opens up our live preview. So because I've set the button to be 25 pixels up from the bottom, that distance will always be maintained. So I can do that and it will always be maintained. And because it's from the center, it doesn't matter what I do. So only having 4 or 5 or 6 buttons going across will fit most devices, including mobiles. So you're really safe on this number of buttons. Okay, but the task in hand is to change these graphics. Now, our buttons tend to be SVGs, all right? So if you've got an SVG that you want to change, or you have your own SVGs, you can add components, and then you can do exactly what I'm just about to do, and that is look at the, or select the button in question, select the change, and then find it. Now, this is our normal button, so this is it. So this is what our silhouette normal button would look like. Click, and I've changed it. I can now change the mouse over. So here we've got the same button with an O, which basically means it's slightly bigger for the over effect. Okay, so now what I can do is just preview this, and you can see the mouse over effect working. So now what I've done is I've changed out that component and to make it a silhouette. Now, what I could do is I can say to myself, well, hang on a second, I have got a grid menu for the simplex, all right, and now I can make one for the silhouette. So what I can do is actually select both of these, all right, so these are the components, or rather the elements that would make up my grid menu component. I can right button click here or right button click here and create component from selection. This opens up this create component dialog box. I can choose a category. I've only got the one user defined. Obviously I can't use the built-in one, that's right protected. I can obviously click the plus button and create a new category. I can add a new button or add a new component, sorry, not button, or replace an old one. If I click replace an old one, you can see that I've got the thumbnail grid menu there, all right? But what I want to do is add this as a new one. So this is going to be, just for pure speed, because I'm a really slow typist, is copy that from a text and paste that in. So this is now going to be a thumbnail grid menu for silhouette. I'm going to click OK, and now that's placed it into my components toolbox. So I could now select this and just add simplex to that, and here is my silhouette version. If I really wanted to, I could select all this text, right button click copy, select this component, right button click paste, and match that. I could also match the tags as well, but obviously I would use the tag silhouette rather than simplex. I could then use menu and thumbnail, and that's how you can create a component from a bunch of elements in the skin. All right, so you can see that if for argument's sake you were a graphic designer and you made some really cool buttons and you wanted to share that with the world, what you could do is do exactly what we've done here, changed out the buttons, select them in the skin, right button click, save it as a component. But how do you now get this out and to save it with the rest of the world? Well, it's quite simple. How this works is right button click the category, and then you can open that category in the Finder on the Mac or within Explorer on the PC. And here is my folder for user defined. Double click, and here is my grid menu, and grid menu. Let's have a look at so there's silhouette. So I could copy this or move it out if I wanted to get rid of it, and then obviously I could upload that to the components forum. But that's the file. So that's how to create a component and how to move it out. If you wanted to as well, what's actually happened here is when we created the menu, the actual preview image Pano2VR created. If you look at this menu image, what I did was a screen print of what it looked like when it was opened. And I made it about 5,000 by 500 by 400 pixels PNG, and then you could just drag and drop into this area to change the preview image. So if you wanted to change that, that's what you could do. So yeah, you could do all that, export your component, and then you could then start producing your own components. As we've said in the past, for those that are really good at graphic design and fancy selling then components and skins, then we're all open for that. In our forum we have a commercial offering section, and you're quite welcome to post anything in there. Anyway, so that's changing the button type from SVG to SVG. But what happens if I don't have an SVG and I've got Photoshop and I'm really good at Photoshop and I can create ping images? How can I change one? Well, if we have a look at this button, you'll see that this is a SVG image, so I can't change it with any other type. Or can I? I can. Right, what I'm going to do is just grab another button, just another, I don't know, let's do the, let's select this. So this is the silhouette next and previous buttons. Okay, so I'm going to pick on these, and I'll tell you why in a second, because I have replacement PNG buttons for it. So if I open up the element in the tree, you'll see that some of these buttons have come with surrounding containers. Okay, but if you expand the container, you will then see the buttons within. So I'm going to pick on the right button. I'm going to select it in the tree, wheel cursor down, and here we see these buttons. Now again, they're SVGs, so how can I convert these to PNGs? Well, we've got a convert to button. If I click that, it asks me which format do I want to use, so I'm going to say PNG. I've only got one button, so here you can see we could have added a normal button, a mouse over button. It could be just a little bit bigger, so you get that bigger, so as you hover over it gets slightly bigger. And when you click, whilst the mouse is held down, you could have a third state. So again, you could have like an indented button whilst you're pressing it. As you release, it would then pop back up to the mouse over. When you moved away, it would then go back to the normal. I don't have those states, I only have a normal state, so I'm going to remove this one, and I'm going to change this one for my right PNG. All right, so I've now changed that button. I'm going to do exactly the same for the other one. So we're going to convert that button to a PNG, remove that one because I don't have a mouse over, and I'm going to select that. All right, so I could now, if I wanted to, select this in the tree. So I would just select this container because the buttons are in the container. Right button click, create component if I really wanted to. Close, save. The reason for showing you all this is because what we've done is we've taken a component that's got all the actions. It already works, it works lovely. What we've done is changed the images to suit our needs. So now we're actually going backwards and forwards. So it's the next and previous buttons. There we go. So it's kept its functionality. So you can see quickly, you can add quite complex workings with a skin, but not actually have to worry about anything other than just change what it looks like. So you can custom make these things very, very quickly. All right, so that's changing buttons, grid components, blah, blah, blah. Right, I'm actually getting quite close to the end of this now, but I have one little trick up my sleeve that I want to show you. And that's because we use, let's just get rid of this. I don't want the next and previous button, so I can just delete that. Bang, gone. What we can do is all of our SVGs are, I'm gonna call these proper SVGs. Now, what I mean by that is that there are websites that if you've got a PNG file and you want to convert it to a SVG, you upload it, and all they're doing really is putting it into an SVG wrapper. But in its heart, the heart of it is still a PNG. All right. These buttons that we're using are pure SVGs, and what that does mean is that they they sort of expose the colors, and they can expose the colors to Pano2VR. All right. So what I can do is I can select all of them, and we can now use our color tool. All right. Now the thing is, we've got two button sets. We've got the simplex and the silhouette. Okay. Now you guys might want something different. You know, it's boring only having two button sets. But if you box clever, you can actually change the colors of these and make them look quite different. So I'm going to open up the color tool. All right, here we go. And the color tool is now showing me all the colors that I've selected. Now, because I've selected all the buttons, which are black and white, I've got two colors available to change. Now, if I expand on the colors, you can see I've got an SVG fill, which is black, and another SVG fill, which is white. So it doesn't take too much of imagination to work out what I'm going to be doing here. So what I could do is double click, and I'm going to set the alpha channel to the black to 0. Click OK. It's now alphaed out. All right. I'm now going to set the white, because I can, to red. Click OK. When I apply that, boom, that's what's happened to the buttons. I have completely changed what they look like within the Panorama. All right. Now you can do that with all of our buttons, depending on the button that you're using, depending on what colors you can do. Now I've just shown this glary red, but you can see that it all works. Again, using the color picker, you could match anybody's website. I know these are pretty difficult to see right now, so what we could do is what could we do? Right, I am going to select this tool, which is our rectangle tool, draw rectangle, and I'm going to draw a rectangle roughly the same width of that. All right, I'm going to move this down the tree, because what we can do with the tree is click and we can drag. When I get to the bottom, that means it's going to be behind all the buttons. As I said before, we start from the top down. So the uppermost element is the closest one to us. So the rectangle now will be behind everything. I can drag that behind there. What I can also do with the rectangle, again, is I'll anchor that to the bottom so it stays where it should be. And you'll see that it's actually minus, so it's slightly over to the left by 5 pixels. I can set that to 0. And now, if I was to preview the skin, you can see we've now got a different color background, so we can clearly see those buttons. So let's just go from the preview to a live output, and there we go, we've done that. Now, of course, with the rectangle and other skin elements, we can add other attributes, which I'll be covering next week, but we could give them curved edges, change the opacity of the rectangle, we could change the border, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, but you know, that's basically, you know, covering everything to do with building your own skin from components, how to, you know, add new components, where to get them from. I encourage you, or we as a company encourage you, to build your own and share them with other people. They're a great way to, you know, share stuff. You don't even have to code the button. You know, if you want to have a new funky looking projections button, and you, as I say, you're a graphics designer, do that. But use our button, change the images, save it as a new component, share it with other people, you know. And if you're really building some nice menus and other things like that, then again, set up your own web shop, job done, advertise it into our forum. But anyway, I think I've really said as much as I need to say. I'm going to throw it open once more to Karen for the Q&As. Do we have any more questions? Karen.
I'm sorry. I clicked something and I disappeared. So I'm sorry if I missed something. Are you asking for questions?
I am asking for questions.
Yeah. So we don't really have any questions, but of course, people are asking about how to save how to save SVGs or how to create them. And I just posted the World Wide Web Consortium does suggest to use the application called Inkscape. I put in a link in there.
Do you think we have enough time for me to show somebody a little trick in Photoshop?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that would be cool. Okay.
All right. Okay. Because Photoshop can build SVGs. They do have to be converted, right? But bear with me. I am going to open this with Photoshop. It's my PNG. All right. So this is Photoshop starting, and here it is. All right. Okay. So let's zoom in and zoom out. So I can set the size of it. All right. And then what we can do is in Photoshop go File, Export, Export As. Now I've already got mine set up to do this, but you would select the file type, right, to SVG. Boom, and there it is. There is an SVG button. Okay. Now it says it's 64 pixels, blah, 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 scale 100%, and I'm going to export this, and where am I going to save it to? I'll save it to the desktop, I think. All right, so click save, and that's done. And there it is. There is my SVG. All right, so there's the SVG button. If I open it up in Pano2VR, let's open up the skin editor, because obviously this is where we want to see it. Here it is. No, it's not. That's the folder, project folder. Where is it? Where's it gone? Here it is. So let's go back to the skin. Wrong button. Here we go. Skin. Drag that in. Boom. There it is. It's an SVG. Okay. So, but it's not quite got the code necessary for us to change it with a the skin tool. The color tool. I'll be showing this later on, or I might even post it in the forum, but basically when you open up an SVG, let's open it up with a text editor or some sort of editor. You'll see that here's all the code that the SVG is made of. What you need to do is add in the start of the SVG, its color. Once the color is part of the SVG code, then we can alter it with the color tool. Okay, so yeah, that's quite a nice little trick that if you've built, an SVG, I would, always build an SVG quite large, say 150 pixels square, because the time you obviously bring them down, they're nice and sharp, and of course you can resize an SVG without, affecting its quality. So anyway, that's a nice little trick using Photoshop. Over to you, Karen.
Cool. So now we have a few questions. Actually, this is a good one.
Oh, no.
Jim is asking, can you maybe give a reason as to why you would choose Silhouette over Simplex? Is there anything going on there besides design? Is there any difference between the two?
No, but in this webinar, it was prudent to show this, and I'll tell you why. And that's because when we selected an SVG button, I could with the Silhouette, we have a clear black background and white graphic. All right. With the SVG, it's only got the one color that you can change, because the SVGs are white. So we just change. So you can change just one element. So you can change the whole button a particular color. But with the Silhouette, I can get rid of the background, change the actual graphic of the button, and come up with something that looks completely different, because we started off with little round black buttons, and now we've got something that's just a graphic. So you can do far more in design wise just in Pano2VR and the skin editor and the color tool to make those buttons look different, so that's the only reason why I'm picking on that, because it's it's a more of in your face of this is what it can do. So that's why.
Okay, so anytime you choose a component out of the components toolbox, whether it's Simplex or Silhouette, they have the same functionality.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the basically wherever we've got a Simplex button, there will be a Silhouette counterpart.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, cool. All right, so let me see. There was a question from somebody on our team is why are some of the buttons behind a screen tint?
Right, okay. This brings us back to this order of elements. All right. What you could have is, if we have a look at this grid menu, the grid menu. Right, okay. So let's just open this up and have a look. Open the grid menu. You'll see that it's got this dark background, right, which is part of the menu. And only these two buttons are in front of it, right? Okay, so let's go back to the skin. And what you'll see here is the grid menu. So therefore, only the elements above it in the tree are more forward. What I could do is if I bring that right down to the bottom, now everything is in front of it. All right, so if I do that and export that, boom, there they all are. Okay, so it's all to do with the positioning in the tree. All right, so that's why. Ideally, what you could do and what we could look at in the future in a different webinar is the grid menu button is the only one. So you'll see a little white button when the menu's open, and you've got the button in the middle. So with using some more advanced features, we could actually shift the menu to be the center and shift it back again when we're done and things like that. But that's another day, another webinar. But that's the reason why is the ordering in the tree.
Okay. So let me see. I'm going to go over to Angela here, or Angie, sorry. And she's asking, is there a way to change the rectangular shape of the image preview in the hotspot? So you have I think, yes, there is a way to change these shapes. But you're probably better off creating your own component.
Right. So, right. All right. Okay. I can actually show you something with the grid menu, because the grid menu was designed from a request from one of our users to say, hey, this is a piece of software I used to use but no longer available. And it had this menu. Could you replicate it? So I built it. This was the grid menu. Okay. And one of the features of the grid menu was to show an equirectangular image. Okay. You might not want that. You might want just a standard flat rectilinear image. Yeah. So you can do that. We can go back into the component, the skin, open up the component. You can see I can expand again, and there is the node image. I can select that. As soon as I select it, I have its properties this side. When I cursor down, you can see under node image, the projection is equirectangular. I can now change this to rectilinear. I could change mirrorball, fisheye. We've got lots of different projections what we could do. But don't forget, this is a global thing. So once I click this to rectilinear, it's going to change them all to rectilinear. Now, what's going to happen here is I am now going to build this output, and it's going to open up, and there we go. We now have our rectilinear images. Where we had equirectangular, we've now got rectilinear, and it's the same way to do that with the hotspots. The hotspots use this node image that you can actually go into its properties and change the projection it shows.
But what if you wanted to have rounded corners instead of square corners there in that grid?
In that grid, right, okay, let's go back then to the grid. Right, here we don't have the option for rounded corners, so what we can do is we can use CSS in here. We could actually put in a CSS style to create the round round corners. Let's, I don't really want to get too heavy into this, but let's just do CSS. Just want to show you where to go to get the information. So CSS, what would you call rounded corners? Rounded. I don't know. I've spelled it wrong. But There we go. Round corners. W3. This is the website I wanted to point people to. So rounded corners. So you've got border radius. That is the one I was after. That's what it's called. And you can do this, you see. So this is the... so I could copy that. All right. Let's hide that. And I believe it's the CSS styles. It could be the inner styles. I can't remember. But let's paste that in there. And click, close, save. No, it's got to be the inner styles then. All right, so let's go back to that. I never remember which one it is, so let's get rid of that. Now, actually, right, okay. I remember now what's going to happen. You can see that we've now got the rounded corners, okay? Now, what I would need to do here is obviously this is inside another element, so you'd need to affect that element as well. But if we do go back to that, you will see that that has indeed functioned or worked. You can now see that that picture element has now got the rounded corners. What I need to do is go back into the skin to the I'm actually using a rectangle that's using some actions that when I hover over it, they're changing colors. I would now apply that 25 pixels to this rectangle as well, and that would finish that off. But that's how you would. So if you bump into an element where you can't change so let's
shape or the look.
Yep.
Or,
so here's the active. So this is the rectangle, and here you can see that we've got radius here on our rectangle. Not all elements have this setting. So that node image, this thing here, nodes, it's actually so it's a node image, doesn't have this setting. So you would use the CSS. But if I now put that to 25. It should all now come together. So there you go, boom. All right,
cool.
So you can do that, but you know, that's far too much for this webinar.
Yeah. So that's the thing, the idea of bringing in the components, especially the ones that we have built in, is so that you have something to work with immediately. And if you don't like the look of it or something else, you can always change it. You can always copy and paste it, make it your own. But for all these little small details, it's a little bit much to cover in today's webinar.
Yes.
But there were a few other questions asking about how to add drop shadows to fonts and to your graphic elements, and these things I think these are all doable. Everything is there, and there's multiple ways to get around it, or to not to get around it, but to create these things. And even adding some kind of opacity to things like this is all in there. And if you know a little bit of CSS, I think you can change even more.
Absolutely. I mean, the drop shadow on text, as an example, if we go to something like the, the projections button for the simplex skin, the simplex skin comes with a tooltip, and the tooltips all have CSS for a drop shadow. And there it is. So if you wanted a drop shadow on your text and you were building like one for the get this right, silhouette, yeah, what you could do is add a one of the buttons from the simplex button scheme. Have a look at this, copy and paste this into. These are the colors. Obviously, this is the hex color, so you can change the color. You can. This is the amount it blows out, so the alpha of it, not alpha. But then you've got the solid, and how many pixels up or to across will the drop shadow be? But yeah, you've got lots of control here, but that's CSS. An awful lot can be controlled into CSS. So that W3 School's website is an absolute golden nugget. It really is good.
You can learn a lot there. There's so much there, and you can learn so much just going through these components.
Absolutely.
Just to see how they were made, and you just have to click through them. Everything is there. It's open for you to use. And, even if you're not quite sure how something is connecting or working within it, you can always ask us. I'm pretty sure Martin created every single one of these components. So we know how they work. We can help you with that. But even for me, if there's something I want to learn about how to build something in my skin, I usually go straight to the components and see what's there, learn from it, and then adapt it to how I want it to work. So yeah.
Okay,
Let me
but
see.
if I can just sort of just finish off, like I say finish off, I keep saying that, but one of the reasons why I would urge you to build your own skins is because you're actually adding the components necessary for your product or project. If you use one of the Silhouette or Simplex skins, they are really good. They are really good to get you going straight away. As we said before, you can change colours, you can do whatever and make them work. But be aware that, they contain lots of elements that you may or may not need. Luckily, we've built these skins so they don't have lots of file size, so they're very, very quick to load. But this little box here is there for a reason. If you want to start modifying stuff, then, I would say start with a blank canvas, bring in the components that you want to work in your project. Once you've done that, you can dive in and go mad, and you won't break anything. So yeah, that's what I wanted just to say is, this is one of the major advantages of building your own from scratch using the components, is because you only add the elements you only need for your skin.
Great, thanks. I think that's just about it. There's one question from Corolla, which is not has nothing to do with skins, but
I'm married. Sorry.
Is there a way to change the link color in the created with Pano2VR right-click context menu? That's not a skin, by the way. That's something else. That's within the player.
That's within the player. I believe there is, actually, because this has come up before. There is a way of doing it. I really can't remember. It was Christoph that sort of went, "Oh yeah, we can do this." I was like, "Oh really?"
Yeah, I can see Christoph is writing Corolla here. Let's wait for the.
Oh, you've just muted yourself, Karen, or you've died.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm doing really well. So it was answered, and let's see. You can change it using CSS.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Christoph, for that answer. So I think that's it. I think we've got everything. Okay, this is a good quick question again. Ricardo is asking, when you're building your own skin, what's the relationship between the canvas size and the computer display?
Right, none. Absolutely none.
None.
Absolutely none. Quickly, I mean, this was the thing I was going to cover next week. Do I cover it now? Quickly. Oh, go on. Right, if I add a rectangle, right, to the skin, right, I open up the preview. Okay, you'll see my rectangle here. It's exactly where I've put it. Okay. If I move the skin, the rectangle stays put. Why does it stay put? Because it's anchored top left, so it's going to maintain the distance from the top left to that element. All right. If I change the anchoring to that, to now top right, it will now move to the top, or move with the skin anchored to the top right. Okay. So what this basically means is this skin canvas can be any size you want, as long as you've anchored your elements correctly. Okay, the only reason why you're going to make the canvas any bigger is if you're going to build a fairly complex skin and you've got lots going on, you may want to do it. But some people have sent in their skins to support saying, "I'm stuck with this, can you help?" And the skin's massive. Someone's displaying it on a 42-inch screen or whatever, and the skin is the same size as the 42-inch screen. It's like, blooming heck, this is it didn't need to be that big. It's as much as you can fit in there, and my trick is, as soon as I start placing things in that I don't need to work on anymore, I just use the eyeball button and I can start hiding stuff. So I'm only then working on elements, and of course I can't click them accidentally either, and so I'm only now working on elements that I want to work on in the skin. So that's another way. So no, there is no relationship between the output and the skin. It's just that it's the amount of canvas size you've got to work in. That's it.
Yeah, and for me, I usually adjust my canvas to, just what feels comfortable to work in. So it's your choice there. A little bit of freedom. I know it has borders and boxes and whatnot, but
That's going to be covered next week. That's more,
with
as I
the
say,
margins and things like this, where
absolutely.
you can expand beyond these. Yeah, cool. Yeah,
so
cool. I'm glad you're talking about that next week.
So that's next week's little John into the skin editor. So yeah,
you're all going to be skin editor experts by soon. I'm learning things myself, so it's very cool. That's it for the questions. If I think we can end on that note.
Absolutely. Well, again, thanks everybody for joining us. It's always a pleasure. And yeah, I don't tend to flex my knowledge muscle that much, and it's a real privilege to be able to do it and show you guys what Pano2VR can do, and just really show you that with all the rumors of how complicated this is, it really isn't. It's yes, you need to learn it, but in reality, as you can see, we've been so many webinars into the 101 series, and this is the first time we've actually opened the skin editor. So it's good. Anyway, I'm gonna sign off and just say thanks for everybody for coming and viewing, and that's it from me. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks everyone. It was great to have you here. We'll hopefully see you next week to learn more. Bye.
Bye-bye.